All right. Can you tell me your name and spell your name, please, for me?
Yes, my name is Miss Melody S. Cooper. The spelling of my first name is Melody. Middle initial S. Last name is Cooper. Cooper.
Okay. And today you're here in regards to who?
I am the mother of Kwamena Ocran. His first name is spelled Kwamena. Last name spelled Ocran.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about the situation? What brings you here today?
What brought me here today was to fight for justice for all of the families that have lost loved ones due to unjust treatment by unlawful police officers.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the situation and what happened in the case?
Okay. Basically, my son was being set up as a result of a perfectly planned execution of my child. Someone by the name of Sergeant Delgado sent someone to knock on the door to ask my son to go to the store with him. But all the while, when my son got to the beginning of the complex, there were actually 3 officers sitting there waiting, or standing there, waiting to, I guess, set my son up into a trap, or chase him into a trap. Initially, the media and the officers lied when they stated my son was in front of the police station with a gun. My son never made it to the police station. They said that my son and 3 officers ran across 355 on a Friday at 5:50 p.m. 355 is a 6-lane street, whereas though someone, if not all of them, would have been hit and ran over by a vehicle. My son was actually approached at the beginning of the complex, in which they did not approach my child to question. They approached my child to set him up in a trap, and that's exactly what they executed, was a trap. When my son seen them, he immediately turned around and ran back through the complex, whereas Delgado made him his target when he got out of his vehicle and started shooting my son in the back. There was stories that stated my son died instantly. He fell face down, and afterwards, when he was down, they didn't walk up to him to administer CPR. He was neglected medical attention. They walked up to him and kicked his lifeless body over and continued to shoot him in the groin area more than once. Then, at that point, 2 of them stood over his body, made jokes, laughed, and the 2 left the scene. They committed several crimes. They committed federal crimes when they decided to tamper with evidence, meaning when they kicked my son over and continued to shoot him, there was additional crimes that occurred then. While having my son lay on the ground for 7.5 hours while they put up sheets to cover up the bridge so no one can see riding by or walking for blocks and blocks that they were committing a crime, these unlawful officers themselves was committing murder. Those officers, unlawful officers, are nothing more than murderers and crooks. They robbed me when they stole my son from me and stole his life from him. He would have been 21 next week, August 31st, 25, August 31st. But no, he was assassinated January 8th, 2 days after the insurrection. I guess the police was still pumped up from the invasion of the White House, and I guess they felt it was like a modern day lynching of my child to execute him the way they did, by shooting him in his back initially, and then taking his dead body and kicking it over with no respect for human life, and continue to shoot him in his private area. Now, who does that if you are lawful officers? And if we can't have officers following the law, is there law set in place for officers to follow? Because they didn't follow police protocol They did not follow due process. They did not wait for a uniformed officer that was wearing a body camera to be on the scene. But as a result of that, I was invited to to make a testimony at the House of Assembly in February, in which I did do so. And I spoke upon the fact that plainclothes officers should wear body camera, because it's been noted that a lot of plainclothes officers commit just as much crime as our citizens. And after my testimony, the House Speaker asked me, he stated, if we change the law, would that make you happy? Nothing would make me happy at this time, but it just may make your citizens safer. And also, I wanted it to be known that Howard County is supposed to investigate all the police shootings for Montgomery County and vice versa. I requested my son to go to the Attorney General's office, but that wasn't implicated. But as a result of my meetings with the House of Assembly, I stated I demanded a family day for my son, which was just past May 15th. I demanded that my son have a mural of him in Montgomery County, Maryland, which should be done in Silver Springs, downtown Maryland. I invoked Kwamena's law, in which now they are in the process of writing what they labeled it as Kwam's law, and that the logistics to that is all ununiformed officers, like plainclothes officers. Don't get me mistaken for undercover officers. We're not speaking of undercover, we're speaking of plainclothes officers. They implemented it that all plainclothes officers in the state of Maryland is to wear a body camera now. But as far as my son's, as far as the bill in my son's name, the logistics to that and the proper language is that the ununiformed officers wear a body camera when on duty and off duty, whenever carrying a firearm, as well as to have a visible badge when engaging with the public, to have cameras rolling for the safety of the citizens just as well as safety of their officers. So that will be the bill that they're trying to write up now, which is Kwam's law.
I'm sorry. Do you remember the name of the officers?
It's the street crime unit, Montgomery County Street Crime Unit. There were 4 officers. I can't recollect the name of all the officers, but one of them, which is the ringleader of the terrorist group, was promoted to be a Sergeant Delgado. But if anyone sees this film, he shouldn't have been appointed to be a sergeant of individuals to serve and protect the citizens, because the only thing they are serving us is a life sentence while they're protecting themselves. Delgado, if you could ever hear this, you should have only been appointed to be the sergeant of dirt and grime, because what y'all did was very dirty, and the way y'all move is very grimy, and you will be exposed.
Okay. Can you tell me, how can we honor your son? How can we honor?
Well, you can honor my son by petitioning that those officers be arrested and charged with the premeditated murder of my child, and push for the law to be passed, Kwam's law, that will require all plainclothes officers to wear body camera on and off duty whenever carrying a firearm, and also to always have their badges visible when interacting or approaching citizens, so that the citizens themselves will know that they're speaking with a police officer, and to request that all police departments need to cut the grass. If you get rid of these crooked cops, unlawful officers, we wouldn't be sitting here today. We wouldn't be having this protest today for all the families that are hurting as a result of what has continued to occur when it comes to the law interacting with citizens.
Okay. I think you had a picture to show us today. Would you mind showing us?
Yes.
I may raise it up a little bit more, please. Okay.
This would be my son, Kwamena Ocran. He would have been, again, 25 August 31st, but he was robbed of his life when those unlawful officers decided to execute my child and treat him as if he wasn't human. But my son meant just as much to me, to your children would mean to you. And you wouldn't want anyone, regardless of what title they carry, to treat your child unjustly as the way you treated mine. So therefore, you've been exposed. It's time to face the music, not only go to the grand jury, but be charged guilty as charged for all the crimes you committed against my child when you murdered him. And then you committed a federal offense when you decide to tamper with evidence by kicking his lifeless body over and shooting him in the groin area. That was nothing less than a modern day lynching.
Can you tell me some memories that you have? What type of person was Kwam?
Kwam was a very happy person. He always smiled. He was very helpful. He would give people his new clothes to wear. I wasn't in agreement with that. He would give them shoes, sneakers, and he always wore the nicest things. His family was from Ghana, and Kwam was born a prince. When he was born, they had to have a celebration, and I asked them, well, what was this? And they said, it's a ceremony. I said, well, you're not going to cut his face, are you? They said, no, we don't do that anymore. We just have to acknowledge the prince. So there were so many people that came from different parts of the world and the country to acknowledge my son. As he grew up, he always made jokes. He was very happy. He was very comical. He danced very well. He could do a split. He could have the arches of his feet touch the back of his head. My son rapped. He wrote his own lyrics. He organized his own music. My son played football. He has plenty of trophies for being the best run stopper. My son had a silver medal and a bronze medal in swimming as well. He was very athletic, very helpful, very cheerful, very knowledgeable. My son was supposed to start a job because he was a licensed Maryland roofing contractor at the age of 21. Certified licensed roofing contractor, and he was supposed to start his job when he came back from Africa because his father died 3 months before he was murdered. His grandmother died that Monday, and he was murdered that Friday. He was actually supposed to have went back to Africa and claimed his heritage because, as I stated, he was a king. He was born a prince and died a king.
Thank you very much. Any last comments you would like to say?
Yes, I want to thank everyone, the media, just spectators, anyone and everyone that takes the time out to listen and to continue to pray for our families that are hurting. I used to watch on TV when they would show another victim of a hate crime. I call it a hate crime because these unlawful officers are committing hate crimes when they are killing us black and brown people, hiding behind their badges and calling it policing. As my son said, cut the grass. I don't see that every officer is wicked, but there is quite a few and too many, as they had proven when they were exposed after they ran up in the White House to find out that a lot of those people were supposedly officers of the law, but I call them what they are, unlawful officers.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.